I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, June the 14th, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Just an average run, about 5,000 head for the regular feeder cattle auction on Monday here, and expecting a good market with the way things are kind of going. Don't forget the schedule coming up for the rest of this month here, or actually for the next calendar month. Value added special on Thursday, June the 24th. That'll be a big sale. And then the primetime livestock Big Bang video is July the 1st. If you guys got cattle to put on that Big Bang video, it's going to be over at the casino there at Downstream, and you definitely want to get a hold of one of the reps there at Joplin to get your cattle put on that. Going to be closed on July the 5th on that Monday, after the 4th of July there. And then a calf and yearling special on July the 8th. So mark those down on your calendars. Back on track, and mostly just with the slaughter. But after the Black Swan deal of the cyber attack that happened on JBS, and we had a very disappointing slaughter a week ago, or the previous week before last week, because they were closed several days early in the week, and just took them a while to get back on track. But estimated slaughter for last week was 665,000 with a 70,000 head Saturday. So that's pretty good. If we could maintain that, we would kind of get ahead of the game here pretty fast. And I know there's a lot of these guys that are coming out here and say the whole fix to this thing is just more slaughter capacity. These packers could slaughter more if they want to, guys. It's amazing how they can. You look back during the Holcomb plant fire there, with one of our major plants down, we had a larger daily slaughter than we had when that plant was going, because your box beef cutout values went up, and they can make that what they want to. It's just they're so disciplined, they know they're going to get the cattle anyway. Why push the issue and then get themselves in a bind where they're kind of short on cattle? So they keep your feedlots kind of backed up and full all the time. That's a good way to keep somebody that you're potentially buying something from, is just kind of keep them overloaded all the time. And I've had several people make note, and I don't disagree at all, that we've continued to add on to our feedlot capacity. A lot of these feedlots have added pens here in recent years, and we've got more places to put cattle, on feed, but we don't have any more slaughter capacity. But we're feeding cattle longer than we used to. And so, it hasn't been that long ago, 120 days, that was a full time there for cattle being on feed. Rarely do you see cattle plucked before 150 days now. And we're seeing more often that you put cattle on full feed at lighter weights than maybe what we did 20 years ago. So, I think a lot of that has kind of offset that. There was some big advertisement of some added slaughter capacity that's expected here to come over the next year or two. That's been well planned for quite a while. That didn't just come out of the last week or two of what's going on. But and with all these little smaller plants that are popping up all over the place, I think we're going to be in good shape here going forward, especially with as many cows as we've been harvesting this year. We've had droughts in some places that don't normally see it. You have a drought in Texas or New Mexico or Kansas or Oklahoma. It can be a big deal, but guys are used to it. But I tell you what, you have a big drought in North Dakota and South Dakota and places like that, and man, guys are running, a lot of cows up there, and all of a sudden you start seeing, runs in some of these auctions of, 2,000 to 4,000 cows, maybe 1,000 way-up cows, bunch of young cows in there, and then some bred cows and pairs that guys are pulling off, and we've been seeing that. But we did hear that they got some pretty decent rains in spots in North Dakota up there, and kind of widespread around. So it had to have helped some of the guys out. Likely it's too late to help out what they had planned they were going to have to do, but you got to start with the rain, and it sounds like we got some around a few places. Now, we did see towards the end of the week there that John Tester made an announcement at public auction yards in Billings, Montana, and Grassley and Mike Rounds, both ag senators there, were signed on to the introduction of a bill to amend the PNS Act of 1921 to give it a little bit more teeth, to have a whole band of lawyers there just to fight some of these, non-competitive practices that are happening out there. That'll be great. We got to get that, but we've got to get one of the mandated minimum negotiated cash bills through. We've got to get one of those through. But this bill that they introduced on Friday there, that will help pursue some enforcement on one of those minimum mandatory bills there if we get that. We did see an immediate release same day there from USDA saying that they are going to do some things. In fact, they had 3 bullet points there, the things that they're going to do to start fighting, unfair, deceptive, and anti-competition practices there. And then for good measure, they even included the poultry and the hog people. So, the big, commercial independent hog producers and poultry producers out there with the hog ranches and pork ranches, that can feel good for them. It's about like I'm saying in 1880s, we're going to back off on some of this buffalo slaughter out here, the buffalo hunting. It's already, that ship's already sailed a long time ago. Any poultry or hogs with any numbers to speak of at all are all made in these chicken and pig factories that they have around. We've lost that independent producers there. We're still fighting for the cattle people, but it was nice for them to add them in there, just in case. The only hogs that you see that aren't under contract, even your hog producers, they're under contract. They don't care what the market is. They're not going to do any marketing. They're just all under contract, and it's a done deal. And that's the way they'd love to get the cattle people too. But we've got a lot of hard-headed, stubborn, independent cattle producers and still some independent cattle feeders that are fighting back pretty hard. And we got to try to save it if we can, guys. Let's talk about your board for last week. June live cattle futures. Monday was down 60. Tuesday was up 50. Wednesday up 67 cents. Thursday up 17. And had a big Friday up $1.12 with June live cattle futures ending the week at 118.70. That was up $1.88 for the week. August ended the week at 120.02, up $1.95. Your feeder cattle August contracts, and that's a very important contract. We've talked about it a lot. Monday was up 27, Tuesday down 95, Wednesday down 97, Thursday was up 12 cents, and Friday up 277 at 151.17. That was up $1.25 for the week. And we saw on your grains, they had a big, your grains were down big on Friday and down big overnight through the weekend. So, we expect them to be down here to start the week. I don't know if that's some of the spotty rain that we had in some of your worst drought areas up in the northern plains, or likely, a lot of your funds bailing out of the July contracts because they're starting to get pretty thin, and so they'll be bailing out of those, and it could suck the market down some on those. September feeder cattle contract ended the week at 153.52, up 77 cents. Your fat cattle trade through Thursday in your 5-area feeding region, negotiated sales of 81,600 head. That's not great, but it's one of the better weeks we've had here in the last few months. That compares to 49,400 the previous week and 76,000 the same week a year ago. Live sales of steers and heifers up through Thursday was 118 to 122.50, with a weighted average on live steers up through Thursday of 120.02. That's about a dime higher than they ended the previous week. And our fat cattle market has been exactly the same for a whole month here. And some people don't like to call them charity bids, but I guarantee you, if you had to negotiate for the prices you got over the last several weeks, we wouldn't have got that. I mean, basically the packers are coming along, they're making $1,200, $1,300 a head, and they've run out of gall to try to pin the fat cattle market down anymore. So they've just been kind of coming back with that. It seems like they can get cattle bought around 120, around 190, 191, and they're just happy to buy them there. And we don't see any feedlots that are really trying to hold their ground and ask any more for the cattle. So it's just been kind of a friendly exchange of price right there. Of course, it's all going the Packers' way. Dressed steers and heifers selling this past week from 188 to 193, with a weighted average dressed steer price through Thursday of 190.66, and that was down just a few pennies per hundredweight. But did have a little bit of trade in the northern feedlot areas on Friday. Iowa, another 1,600 confirmed, 27,400 head for the week, 120 and 122, 120 to 122 live, and 193 dressed on Friday, which was kind of what they've been doing all week. At 193 to be on the high side, and the 122 to be on the high side too. And I did hear about that deal. You know, maybe they should try to get 122 predominantly this week instead of just on the high side. Nebraska, only about 500 head confirmed for the week, or for the day on Friday. For the week, 35,200. That's about what they need to move. 121 live, 193 dressed. Kansas and Texas didn't have any confirmed sales on Friday. Kansas, a light trade of 13,600 head for the week. And Texas, very light of only 7,500. Colorado was confidential all week. We couldn't find out what they were doing there. Box beef cutout values for the week. Your weekly weighted average was lower for the first time since the week that ended March the 20th. So they've just been cranking it up, and not a little bit, maybe $10, $12, $15 a week on the weekly weighted average on your box beef cutout values. But finally backed off, and that's seasonally. They're still astronomically high, but they are coming down a little bit. Choice cuts, your weighted average on all of last week's sales, 338.33, down 23 cents. Select 307.77, down 304, down pretty good. We talked about your slaughter at the opening of this report. 665,000 head for slaughter last week with a 70,000 head Saturday. That's pretty impressive. Not really comparable against that week before when JBS was down so much. Plus we had the holiday on Monday, so it was only 538,000 the previous week. But last week's slaughter was 20,000 head, larger than the same week a year ago, so that's significant. Your year-to-date cattle slaughter is up 5.7% so far for the year. You put that in comparison with hogs, your hog slaughter is only up 1.7%. So we're slaughtering a lot, and we're slaughtering more cows than normal. And our cow market's really good right now. They're after the cows right now. Good high dressing cows, bringing in the mid 70s with and maybe up into the low 80s on a real high dresser. Slaughter bulls routinely bringing up way over $1. So that's pretty good. If you guys got some close by and you could shut them up and bring them in here, we got all this demand leading up to 4th of July. How about your feeder cattle market? The real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 138.18 based on an 800-pound steer. That was actually down 27 cents from the previous week when all of our trends were higher. But man, we just had so many big sales in the southern plains. Places like El Reno, Oklahoma City, Pratt, Kansas, all the big sales were in the southern plains and not very many big ones in the northern plains. We did have a big one in Ogallala, but that was about the only one to offset all the cattle that were coming in from the southern plains. But pretty good markets around, and they're buying feeder cattle right along. We're still seeing the last of the cattle coming off wheat, beardless wheat, in Oklahoma and Kansas, and we could see that in another week here or two, leading right up to the 4th of July. It's been really wet in that area, and it stayed fairly tender. But cash feeders in your auctions last week, $2 to $4 higher. Now your calves are kind of uneven. Not a lot of calves moving like calves. The only place we're seeing light calves moving is in those drought areas in the great Northwest and in the northern plains where it's the driest. We're seeing the spring-born fall selling calves selling right now already in some places, and some little light calves. And some of them look like a buy. I mean, they're selling high enough, but under $2 a pound for 3 weights. And if you look at what the board's doing and things like that, those might be a buy if you got a place to put them. But you know, in your odd calves that are selling in your central U.S. sale barns, it all has to do with condition of them. If they're long time weaned and if they've been turned out and they're not fat, they'll sell pretty good. If they are, then they won't. Let's talk about some individual quotes all around the circuit there late last week and over the weekend. How about Bloomington Livestock Exchange in Bloomington, Wisconsin? 57 head, 834 pound steers bring 145.50. Big quote on some lighter calves. Winter livestock auction in Winter, South Dakota. This is likely some cattle that are coming out of a dry area there and maybe selling earlier than they would like to, but 79 head, 517 pound steer calves bring 180.75, which is about as high as we've seen them around for the last several weeks. How about your best quote that I saw late last week and over the weekend, and your Zactran top quote for the day was from Lexington Livestock Market in Lexington, Nebraska. 215 head of 893 pound steers bring $143 even. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.